Hi everyone, it's Robin and welcome back. So today I am in my dining room to share with you a new addition to the space, which probably all of you have already figured out what it is, and it is this plate rack right behind me. I just finished building it, and just last night my husband helped me install it onto the wall, and I couldn't be more thrilled about it. You may remember last week I shared with you a video on how I added a chair rail and then some planking down below it. Just doing that added so much character to my dining room space, and I just loved it. But that was only part one of what I wanted to do. If you missed that video, I will link it down below. So the second thing I wanted to do for this space is to build myself a plate rack, which I have been wanting to do for so long. I can't even tell you. And I am just so tickled that it's finally done, and that dream in my head has finally kind of come true, and I think it looks really good. So let me give you a close-up of what it looks like, and then I'll come back and talk about how I built it. Construction of the plate rack itself is very simple. I am by no means a master carpenter in any sense of the word, but when I went about designing it, I wanted it to be oversized and almost look like a piece of furniture installed on the wall. So that was kind of what I was going for, and of course, knowing me, as many of you do, I have a lot of plates and platters and trays and things that I can display on something like a plate rack. So I wanted it to be oversized, and I wanted it to be a statement piece for this room, because this wall that it's hanging on has been my nemesis since the day we moved into this house. Anything I've ever put on it, I've never really liked. It's a really big wall, and I've always struggled with it. But I think this is the key to this space. That, in combination with the wall treatment below it, it adds a lot of character to the space, and it gives me a place to display things, and I can change it up as much as I want, or I can leave it how it is, and I think it's just going to be a perfect addition to this space, when I am loving it already. So let me go ahead and share with you how I built this plate rack, and then I'll come back and share with you how I decorated it. Armed with some makeshift drawings and calculations and a supply of 1x4s, 1x3s, and 1x2s, I dove right in. The first thing I did was cut two 1x4s 54 inches long with my compound miter saw. These will be the top and bottom pieces of the shelf. I then went ahead and cut two 1x4s 45.5 inches long for the left and right sides. All four pieces together will make the frame of my plate rack. To assemble the frame, I started with the left side and top piece, lining up the top piece 3.5 inches from the end of the left side piece to create a header board space. I made sure everything was nice and square by using my corner square, and then I pre-drilled a hole through the outside piece into the top piece to attach the two pieces together, followed by inserting a 1 5/8 inch screw, which I countersunk slightly. I then pre-drilled and installed another screw at the bottom side of the board as well. I repeated the same process to attach the right side frame piece to the top board, and followed by attaching the bottom piece flush inside the two side pieces in the same manner. When I was finished, this is what it looked like. Next, it was time to add shelves. I first measured the placement of the two shelves I wanted to add. The first one 14 inches up from the bottom, and the second about 15.5 inches above that. I then cut two 1x4s 54 inches long, and then lined them up along the marks I previously made. I then pre-drilled and added two screws to the end of each of the shelves to attach them to the frame. I should mention that I'm countersinking all of the screws as I am inserting them. So next I wanted to add some hanging supports under each of the shelves. So I cut three 1x2 boards 54 inches long and placed them under the shelves. To attach them, I inserted a screw through the top of the shelf into the support below. I added about 5 along the length of the shelf, and then I added 1 on each end of the shelf as well. Next, I wanted to add a header board at the top of the shelf, which I could eventually add some decorative molding to, so I cut a 1x4, 54.5 inches long, and placed it flush with the front of the shelf. I attached the header board on both ends through the outside of the frame. I also attached the header board to the frame on the underside. I used about 4 or 5 screws along the length of the original frame. The next thing I wanted to do was add some framing around the shelves. So I cut 2 lengths of 1x3s, 55.5 inches long for the top and bottom, which I attached to the original frame. I then cut and attached 2 1x3s, 37.25 inches long for both the left and the right side. I then measured across the front of the shelves and cut 2 1x3s to fit. I centered the 1x3s on the front of the shelves and then attached them. The next thing I wanted to do was add some decorative molding to the bottom of my plate rack. In order to do this, I cut a 1x4 to fit flush along the length of my plate rack. I then took some decorative molding to fit in the groove between the frame and the board I just installed, as well as to wrap around the side of the plate rack, and I made sure to miter the corners. So I attached the board first, and then I made sure that my decorative molding was cut correctly so that I'd have a nice mitered edge. I then brushed on some wood glue along the length where I wanted the molding to sit, and then I replaced the molding and added it on with some finishing nails. In case you're wondering which products I used today, I will make sure to link everything down in the description box in case you're interested. On a whim, I decided to add a shelf along the very top of my plate rack so that I could display things up there as well. So I cut a 1x3 board, which was all I had left, to fill in this space, and I attached it from both the outside of the frame and then along the top of the header board as well. So the final thing I wanted to do was add some decorative molding to the top. In order to do this, I needed to cut another 1x4 to length to fit flush with the framing boards. To cover the seam between that, I used a 1/2 inch round trim, and then for the top, I used a chair rail molding for a simplistic look. I attached the 1x4 board first, and then I used my miter box and saw to cut my trim so that I had a nice mitered corner, so that like the bottom trim, I could wrap it around the sides of my plate rack. Once I had the trim cut to size, I added some glue and then attached the trim with some finishing nails. I did this both for the top molding and the half round molding. The final step was to sand everything down. In order to do this, I used my Black & Decker mouse sander, which is awesome. I absolutely love it. And I just used that to go along all of the flat surfaces, and I sort of rounded the corners of all of the boards with it as well. Once the sanding was all done, I took my wood filler in white along with my putty knife, and I filled in all of the screws. Once the filler had time to dry, I sanded it down and reapplied any of the areas that needed just a little bit more. And then it was time for primer and paint. The primer I'm using today is Bullseye 123 primer for all surfaces. I gave it 1 coat of the primer, and then I added 2 coats of the paint. And the paint I'm using today is my go-to paint for all of my trim work in my house. It is a semi-gloss enamel by Pittsburgh Paint, and I love this stuff. Once the paint was dry, my project was complete. All I need to do now is get it hung on the wall, which I'm going to need some help with. Alright, so that is how I built the plate rack, and I think it is absolutely wonderful. I love how it turned out. It gives me that farmhouse cottage look that I love so much, and it makes a big statement on the wall, which is what I was hoping for. The only thing that I need to do now for step 3 is to find some gorgeous wall sconces that I can put on either side of it. I thought I had something, but they were too small. So I'd like something a little larger to go on either side of it, and then this whole look will be pulled together. So once I can get out to the stores, I am going to be on the search for something to hang on either side of it. So today I finally got my hands on decorating it, and I was so excited. There were so many ideas swirling around my head, but I just decided to take a step back and to do something very simple and just get out all of the gorgeous vintage platters that I have in my collection and to use those. I added a few more elements. I added one tray and then a couple like milk glass drinking goblets with some little bits of green in there. Just add a little bit more interest to the whole thing. But basically it's just platters from my collection, and I absolutely love it. So let me go ahead and share with you how I decorated it, and I hope you enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button, and of course let me know down in the comments what you think of this video and what you think of my new plate rack, which I absolutely love. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be notified of any upcoming videos of mine so you won't miss any new videos. If you'd like to see more videos of myself building things for my home, I will link a popular one, which is the Cubbies that I built for my kitchen. I will link that on the end screen of this video so that you can click on that if you're interested. The Cubbies are one of those things that everyone loves to see how I decorate, and they're always wondering where I got it from. Well, I built it myself, and I will show you in that video how to do that. So go ahead and click on that on the end screen of this video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you again very soon in my next video. Bye now.